let's go over this. Question number 1. How do you write this in standard form?
Distribute.
You're gonna distribute, you get negative 2x to the 4. And then negative 2x squared times 2x is negative 4x cubed. And then we have plus x to the 2 times 2 plus 1 is 3, and then plus 7x squared. So now these two are like terms. So we have negative 2x to the 4th minus 3x cubed plus 7x squared. That is in standard form. So you should have negative 2x to the 4th minus 3x cubed plus 7x squared. What is the name of this? I need to know that. That's quartic. What if it was a 3? Cubic. If it's a 2, quadratic. If it's a 5, quintic. And how many terms are there? There's 3. It's a trinomial. Now, if it's an even power and you have a negative leading coefficient, what do you know about both sides? They're going to go down. How do you figure out the maximum number of terms? You take this power and go down 1. And if there are any other, this is an odd number, if there's any other ones, 1 and 3, those are the possible number of terms. Okay. The next one, number 2. Actually, why do I have a 3 here? That should be a 2. That's a typo. How do you do this problem? How do you know what it is? What you're going to do is go, how do you go from negative 44? Tell me what you did.
Plus
30 what?
5.
How about from here to here?
Plus
Here to here. Minus 1. Here to here. Here to here. And here to here.
Plus 35.
Okay,
A
then,
louder for you.
if these were the same, it would be linear. They're not. So now, how do we go from 35 to 11?
Negative or minus 24.
From here to here.
Minus 12.
Here to here.
0.
Here to here.
12. I'm not saying this fancy.
And here to here. Right? Add 24. Next. If these were the same, it would be quadratic, but they're not. How do you go from here to here?
Add 12.
Add 12. Here to here. Add 12. Add 12. And add 12. If these are the same, it is cubic. So it goes linear, quadratic, cubic. If these were not the same, you keep going. Next one, number 3. Given this graph, I need the least possible degree. So look at the left and the right side. If they're the same, if they're going in the same direction, you're going to give me an even number. But since they're opposite, it's going to be some kind of an odd degree. Now the leading coefficient is going to be positive because the left side goes down and the right side goes up. So it's positive. Now count your zeros. 1, 2, 3, 4. This one's going to count for 2 because it's touching here. So the degree of this is a 5. And the leading coefficient's positive. What are your zeros? Negative 3 is one of them. Negative 2 is another one. 0 is another one. And 2 is another one. So how do you write this polynomial in factored form? Y equals x plus 3, x plus 2, x squared, and x minus 2. It's always the opposites of these. Now, why did I put a squared here? Because it touches, huh?
Wouldn't it go on the outside?
You could put it on the outside. I wasn't picky about that. Like that? Is that what you're talking about?
No, like if you put it that way, when you put the square on the outside. Or could you do it?
Oh, yeah. Yes, outside the parentheses, right there. Yeah. Yes, it's fine. Questions? Okay, next. Number 4. This was worth 10 points because you're being asked a lot of things. Number 1, you want to find the zeros and graph this. First of all, what kind of a degree is this, even or odd? And the leading coefficient is negative. So no matter what, my graph, that both left and right need to go down, and there needs to be, they need to do the same thing. So I'm going to first pull out negative x squared. That's your GCF. You're left with x squared minus x minus 2. Does everyone understand what I did? I factored out a negative x squared. Now what you're going to do is factor this. This is x minus 2 times x plus 1. So what are your 3 zeros? Oh, I forgot the square. That's a square. What are your 3 zeros? 0, 2, and
-1.
-1. So on your graph, 0, 2, and -1, and I know my graph needs to look something
Go
like
over
this.
on this again.
Huh?
Go over there.
Because the degree of these two zeros is odd, it's got to go through them. And then it's going to come up and it's going to touch, bounce off this, it's going to do something again, and it's going to come back down. Sorry. It's going to come back down. So that's the shape of it. So for 8 points, if you did that, I gave you 8 points. To get the other 2, what I wanted to see you do is pick a number. Sorry, it was a decimal, a half, negative a half, and I would do 1. So if you were to put -1/2 and 1 into this problem, let's do it. You have -1/2, you're going to square it and multiply it by -1. So -1 times -1/2 squared, and -1/2 minus 2 is -3/2. And -1/2, this is going to be a 1/2. So if you multiply these, you're going to get, this is going to turn to positive. So you have 2 negatives that are going to turn positive. So it's 3 over 2 times 2 times 2, which is 8. So 3/8. So it's barely going up. It's going to bounce off here. And when you plug 1 in here, you have negative, and then 1 squared. 1 minus 2 is -1, and 1 plus 1 is 2. If you multiply these negatives cancel, because that's going to be a 1, and you end up with 2. So over 1, and I was right on when I guessed. So that's the graph.
Question.
Yeah.
So when you have your x minus 2 and x plus 1, do you break the opposite?
Mm-hmm. Yep. It's the opposite. So -1 and +2. Mm-hmm. Number 5. State the zeros in order that they appear above. So, Alexis, what would be the 0 here? -3. What about this 0? 2. And what's this 0? 5. Now, tell me the multiplicity. Is this even or odd? Odd. What about this one? Odd. And this one is even. Now, if it's odd, what does the graph do? Touch or cross? It crosses, and touches. Tell me the degree of the whole polynomial. All you do is add these up. 5 and 1 and 4 is 10. Questions? Next, number 6. How do you perform, what kind of divisions, long or synthetic, do I do for this one?
Long.
Why?
Because there's the x isn't by itself, it's got a 2 in front of it.
Very good.
Wait, how do you know?
You can only do synthetic division if the, see this 2, if it were a 1, and it has to have a degree of 1. Like, you can do it on the next one, but you can't do, that 2 stops you from doing synthetic. Now, what do I have to make sure I have?
The 0.
Yes. There is no x to the first power. So you put a placeholder in. Yes, Nick?
So it's not like a dumb question. So in that 2x plus 3, could you take that 2 out by just dividing everything on the left by 2 and then turning it into x plus 3 by whatever equation you use?
Wait,
So if I took that 2 out of there.
what 2? Oh, out of these? You mean
Yeah.
a 4?
No, I took the 2 from the 2x plus 3 and I took
No,
it and I took
no,
it
no,
out.
no. Mm-mm. No, you're not gonna get the right answer. Okay, so now our goal is to get rid of 8x. I thought you meant divide all this by.
No.
Could you do that?
Could you?
No, because if you do, you're not gonna get the right answer. You're not. If you were to divide all this by 4, you get 2x, and then when you divide this into that, you're not gonna get the right, you'll see what the answer is. 2x goes into 8x cubed. What do I need to multiply this by to
4x
get?
squared?
You need 4x squared. So multiply these two, you get 8x cubed plus 12x squared. Now, this is the part where you guys get nailed. What do you do with these two terms? You subtract them. So what are you gonna have down here? A negative 4x squared. That's the biggest error that people make. Now you bring something down. What are you gonna bring down? 0x. Now how do I get rid of negative 4x squared? What do I need?
-2.
Yep, so multiply these two, you get negative 4x squared, and then minus 6x. Now, again, this is the part where you guys mess up. What's this gonna be right here?
6.
It's gonna be a positive 6x. Why? Because you have to change this sign to a 6x. And now bring down 12. Now what happens here, you're gonna get a 3, right? 3 times 2x is 6x, and 3 times 3 is 9. Now this is the part where you guys, again, have trouble. What's the remainder?
3.
It's 3, because 12 minus 9 is 3. So how do you write your answer? It's going to be 4x squared minus 2x plus 3 plus a remainder of 3 over 2x plus 3.
Feel bad.
You made a
We
mistake.
forgot the 0.
Oh, see, that's what a lot of people do. They forget, this is the area where they have trouble. This,
So we got 12, like, plus 6x, but we just put that over the 2x plus 3 and left it as the. Because we didn't know.
Wait, so what's your answer?
this is the answer right here. This is your quotient and that's your remainder.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Can you show me the graph again for number 4?
Can I do it at the end?
Yeah.
Let me finish this whole thing.
No, she can't.
We're gonna answer your question at the end. Number 7. Now I can do synthetic division. What do I put outside?
-3.
Uh-huh. What goes in the box?
-3.
-3.
0.
Why?
Because out of x.
Because you don't have x cubed, so you put a placeholder. Then what?
1.
Then,
0.
why?
No x.
Okay, then,
12.
good. Next, what do you do? What's the process?
Bring down -3.
Bring down -3. You always bring down your first term. What do you do with these two?
Multiply.
Then, add, then,
Multiply.
then,
Add.
then,
Multiply.
and you get 78.
78.
Add, multiply,
234.
negative 234, and when you add, you get negative 222. So what's that called, the remainder? How do you write your answer with these? What are these numbers that you have below here?
You take one less than the biggest exponent and then you go so negative 3x to the third plus 9x squared. minus 26x plus 78. Until you get to your,
Minus 222
yeah.
over x plus 3.
Easy? Questions?
So I can just think about your answer.
Those are the coefficients of the answer. It's not the answer all the way, but. So your answer on the blank, you're gonna write this, negative 3x cubed plus 9x squared minus 26x plus 78 plus negative 222 over x plus 3. That's how you write the answer. Next. Now, if I asked you, does x minus 2 go into this problem? And if it does, if it doesn't, what's the remainder? What you could do is evaluate this for, plug in a 2. The opposite of this goes in here. But if I ask you to evaluate it for p of 2, you plug that number in. So negative 3 times 2 to the 4th power minus 2 cubed plus 2 times 2 squared plus 4. Okay, let's do this problem. First, do your exponents first. What's 2 to the 4th power? Is 16 times 3 is, this is going to be negative 48. And this is going to be 8, so minus 8. 2 squared is 4, 4 times 2 is 8. What happens to these 8s right here? They cancel. And then you have plus 4. Negative 48 plus 4 is negative 44. So this is called the remainder. How else could you do this? You take the opposite of this, or that number 2, and you do synthetic division. You have to do both. So you're going to put a negative 3, a negative 1, a 2, a 0, and a 4. Bring down the negative 3, you get negative 6. Add, multiply, add, multiply, add, and there you go. This number better be the same as that. So what is your remainder, or what is the, if I evaluated this for p of 2, it's the remainder. Questions? Anybody? So, some of you guys put in the opposite of that number. No.
Sonia,
Yes.
I had a question.
Mm-hmm.
I thought you were you're probably explaining it right now. I thought you had to put negative 2 in when you do it.
No, if it's written like this, as a binomial, then you take the opposite of it. But if I ask you to evaluate this, you take 2 and plug it in. So you're doing p of 2. So you use this number exactly the way it is, unless it's written like this, like number 9. In number 9, yes, you're gonna do a negative 2.
So
Okay.
the binomial form and the one in synthetic division are always opposites.
No.
Well, then I'm
No,
confused
if it's
again.
written like this, p of 2, you take that number, 2,
Right.
and plug it in.
So
Right.
P of 2
Yeah.
is really like x minus.
He's asking.
Yes,
if
and
it's-
that- exactly
I mean,
what she
yeah,
said.
that's what I'm saying. If
Yeah.
you look at it, the binomial x minus 2, that's always going to be opposite from the one you
Right.
put to the left of the
Right.
synthetic division.
Right.
Okay.
You got it. Yes. Yes, but I'm videotaping, so. Okay, how do you do number 9? You're gonna use synthetic division. It's asking you if this binomial is a factor, does it go into this? So what you'll do here is you will put negative 2 in here with synthetic division, because they want you to use synthetic division, a 1, a 9, a 26, and a 24. You will bring down the 1, multiply, add, multiply and add, negative 24. So, the answer to the question, is this a fact, does this go into it evenly? Yes, it does. The answer is yes to that. So, this gives you one of the factors, x plus 2. That is one of your factors. What's left is x squared plus 7x plus 12. So what do you do with this now? It says if it is, factor it completely. Can you factor that, x squared plus 7x plus 12?
Mm-hmm.
What do you get?
X plus 3 is
Plus
plus
Five.
4.
plus 4. X plus 3 and plus 4.
Oh, alright, let me see.
These three, if you were to FOIL them out, you get x cubed plus 9x squared plus 26x plus 24.
So if I were to do that, it's supposed to, right?
That is the.
You don't just have them from
Questions? Huh? No, you don't need y equals.
You put it with me wrong.
I won't mark you wrong. Okay, number 10. How are you gonna it's finding all the real zeros. Real zeros are the ones rational and irrational, like square root of 3, square root of 2, 1, 2, a half. So this is one where you have to use that p over q, because I can't factor this. So what are that's your p value and this is your q value. You're gonna do, what numbers go into 6? 1, 2, 3, and 6 over 1. So by using these exact numbers, a 1, a 2, a 3, or a 6, not a 5, not a 4, not a 7, only these numbers, you have to use synthetic division until you find the first one. So let's do that. I always start with 1. Start with 1. 1, -1, -5, -1, and -6. You bring down the 1. 1 times 1 is 1, add. 1 times 0, add. And what do you get? No. For a second I thought, did it work? It did not. It did not. So then what I did was I jumped to 2. Bring down the 1. You get 2. Add. Multiply. Add. Multiply. Add. And no. 2 does not work. Then I try 3. Bring down the 1. 3 times 1 is 3, add. Multiply, add. Multiply, add, and multiply, and guess what? We got a 0. That goes here, that's a real 0. 3 worked. So what's left here? This is gonna be 1x cubed plus 2x squared plus 1x plus 2. Now, I'm gonna see if I can try grouping these. Can I?
You did that, no, that's what I don't do.
What?
That's very,
This part right here? How do you do synthetic?
No, the X.
This answer?
Yeah.
Okay, I started with x to the 4. So this is gonna be x cubed. You go 1 degree less. These are the coefficients. Whoops, I meant to write a 1. This is 1x cubed. This is 2x squared. This is 1x to the first power and 2. These are the coefficients.
Okay.
You just go 1 degree less. Now I can factor this by grouping. See these two? Take out x squared, and you're left with x plus 2. And see this? Take out a 1, you're left with x plus, this is grouping. So you have x plus 2 times x squared plus 1. Remember doing this? So what's your other answer? -2. So that goes here. Now what's up with these two answers? These are going to be imaginary. Imaginary are not real. How do I know these are imaginary?
Because when you move this over, this guy's trying to be a negative
And
Yep.
anything that's negative under red,
Yep.
so it's have an I.
These are imaginary, these are not real. Yes.
Okay, so how do you, like, when you did the synthetic division, you got 3 as your 0.
Mhm.
When you find that something's your 0, you keep the sign that it is, like you won't change
Yeah,
it to
yeah,
negative
no,
2?
that's it.
Okay, and then when you're solving it, like I did by grouping, you're gonna change the positive to a negative. So anything that you didn't
Yeah,
find.
if it's in factored form like that, your zero's the opposite, so -2. Now, for number 11, what did I tell you when you have a trinomial and it starts with a 4 and it goes to a 2 and then a 0? What could you try to do? Factor it. How do you factor this? You get x squared and x squared, right? And what two numbers multiply to give you 10 but add to be -7?
-2.
Now, what do you do with these two? You set them equal to 0. Then what? What do I do?
Move them over.
Move 5 over
Square root of
and then square root them, and you get plus or minus root 5, right?
Just take out my parents.
And then what about this one? Add 2,
Plus or minus.
and you get plus or minus root 2. Those are your 4 answers. And can you tell me what kind of answers these are? These are irrational, but they're real. They're real, okay? Next one. Number 12. Now, for a second I thought, you know what, maybe I'll try grouping these. But there's nothing, it's not gonna work. Sometimes grouping doesn't work. And by the way, what is all complex zeros? These are the real ones and the imaginary ones. So find them all. Find them all. So now, I don't know how I can factor this other than P over Q. So what are the factors of 3? 1 and 3 go into 3 over 1 and 3. I don't have a very big list. So I'm going to start off with 1. I always start with 1. I'm going to do synthetic division and see, as soon as I find the first one, then I'm going to end up with an x squared problem and I can do the quadratic. So 3, -13, 13, and -3. How do you do synthetic division? You bring down the 3. 1 times 3 is 3. You're going to add. You're going to multiply. You're going to add. You're going to multiply, and you're going to get your first 0. That is an answer. You transfer this number right here. That's one of your answers. So now, what do these 3 numbers represent? 3x squared, yep, minus 10x, and plus 3. Now, if you're good at factoring, you may have seen that this was factorable right away. If you're not good at factoring, you're going to have to use the quadratic formula or complete the square. So you get 3x and x, -3 and -1, because these factor to give you -9, and -1 is -10. And what are your other 2 answers? 1/3 and 3. So there's 3 real, they're real. There were no imaginary ones here. Even though I said find them all, those were 3 real zeros. Next. Number 13. What is your GCF? 2x. You're going to pull a 2x, you're left with x cubed minus 27. What is this right here?
Perfect cube.
Mm-hmm. How do you so right now we have 2x. That's what that is, 2x. How do you factor the difference or sum of two perfect cubes? What do you put here?
X minus
X
3.
minus three.
X minus 3.
Follow the
You take
sign.
one of these and put them in here. Whatever this sign is, that sign is here. X squared. What do I do with
Plus.
this?
The
Switch
opposite
it.
of
Always a plus sign.
9.
9. Now, I need to find 4 zeros. There's 4 of them. Here's
Got
one
two.
of them. Here's one of them. Here's another one. These are both real.
Plus and minus 1.
Now, these two are going to be either irrational or imaginary. The only way to get these two are using the quadratic formula or complete the square. You're not going to be able to factor this. So I'm going to go for, what am I doing?
Quadratic formula.
Why do you have to do this, or why should you do this versus complete the square? Because that's an odd number. So we have -3 plus or minus 3 squared is 9 minus 4 times 1 times 9, right? All over 2 times 1, which is 2. This is going to give you 36. What's 9 minus 36?
Negative 27.
And how do you simplify that? What are these two answers? They're imaginary. So on your blank, on the blank, you should have a 0, a 3, and a -3 plus or minus 3i root 3 over 2. There's 4 answers. Questions? Okay, and then 14 was a repeat. There won't be a repeat. Next. I need a quintic. What does quintic mean?
5.
5th degree. Okay, if one of the roots is -4, how do you write that in factored form? If one of the roots is root 5, how do you write that?
X minus root five.
But what did I
Plus root
tell
5.
you?
They come in pairs.
They come in pairs, so you're going to have the opposite one. If -3i is a root, you're going to write x plus 3. Remember, it's always the opposite, and these come in pairs. That's what you're going to have in factored form, just like that. Questions? Now, I want you to write it in standard form. It makes sense to multiply these two together and multiply these two together. What do you get when you multiply these two? X times x is x squared. What's going to happen is the next two are going to cancel. And what's a negative times a positive? It's a negative. What's root 5 times root 5?
Right.
A 5. Okay, how do you multiply these two? X times x is x squared. And then you're going to get a
Cancel.
-3i, positive
No,
3i,
negative 9i.
negative 9i squared,
Multiplied
which
by
is 9,
1.
right?
And then that's
Now, what I would do is, before you start incorporating this piece, I would FOIL this. What's x squared times x squared?
X plus 4.
And then you have 9x squared minus 5x squared is 4x squared, and then minus 45, right? Now you're going to FOIL, you're going to bring x plus 4 into the picture. Let's do this. What's x times x to the 4th?
X cubed.
What's x times 4x squared?
Plus 4x cubed. Minus 45x.
Minus 45x.
Plus 4x.
Now we're going to do the next one. 4x, I'm just going to write them here. 4x to the 4th, you just got to put them all together. And then 16x squared, and then that's going to be negative 180. Okay, so your answer in standard form should be x to the 5th, first that one, then this one, then this one. then 16x squared, then negative 45x, and minus 180. Questions?
What's the factor?
Factor form is what she started out with.
So not the x plus 4, x 4.
No, that is factor.
This, right here.
Yeah,
No, I was
that
talking about the last one.
Huh?
standard,
At the bottom, x plus
This is
4.
standard form.
No, x plus 4, x to the 4 plus 4, x squared minus 45.
Talk about the one at,
The one that's near
right above the
words.
problem.
So this?
Yeah, that's not standard factor.
that's not
No,
factor
that's
form.
not, this is factor, this is factor.
When everything's totally separate, you haven't FOILed anything.
Yeah. Any other questions? Okay, your test is gonna be Friday.
Wait, what?
That's wrong.
It's not tomorrow. I'm not gonna be here tomorrow. There's class meetings tomorrow. You can stop recording.
Bye-bye.